if you were watching my main channel before Blacky Sootfur gave me the boom in subscribers, then you know about these 3 particular little reptilian, dragon-esque creatures known as Pinkish, Brine, and Silver. And I don't use these characters anymore, and I wanted to go over why, and who they were, and I guess what happened in their stories that I wasn't able to conclude due to, not using them anymore. So first thing, who were these characters, in case you don't know, which is understandable. They were a group of friends. Brine was a sort of insectoid creature. I can't remember. I think Brine was a girl. But we'll just go with that. She had a stinger on her tail, and it was kind of like wasp-like, and she had wings, and I forgot to draw the wings in the drawing, but whatever, just pretend like she has wings. Little insectoid wings. There was Pinkish, who is the one with the red eyes. Pinkish was normally a pinkish color. That's where his name came from, but he turned into this sort of shadow creature. Then there was Silver, who was always a shadow creature, and was a bit more friendly, but they were all very edgy beans, and that was kind of the whole point of them. And I'll get onto that in the future. So there were 3 different plot points. The first one I pretty much entirely explained in the waiting meme, where Silver had been, like in a group of a lot of friends or whatever, and then they were like talking about how they didn't like her behind her back, ended up giving her a note one day telling her that they didn't like her, and Brine saw the note, she had dropped it, and then tried to like comfort her or whatever, and then she was like really upset about it. So that's like the first story. None of these are particularly good, just to warn you. Then there was this whole thing of Brine having a crush on Silver, but that wasn't as big of a story point. I used it for one map part. Then there was the main plot of how Pinkish would turn into the shadowy form and attack Brine. One of these times, Brine stabbed him with her tail and took over his mind temporarily. This never was important, it just kind of happened. And then, Silver would sometimes try to stand up for Brine, try to help, but then sometimes Silver would also hurt Brine, and I don't even know what the story was anymore. It was just really weird and didn't make any sense. In fact, I don't even know entirely what my original plan was for it. Alright, so here's when things get kind of serious and upsetting. So if you just want the beginning part of like who they are and like what was their stories and what I had planned, then just leave. I made these characters in a time where things were really, really awful for me, and I'm still going through a lot now, probably more than I was then, yet I have a load of you guys, like, my fans or whatever. I don't like saying that word, but you watching this, my friends online, and they have just helped so much, so much to just make my life a lot brighter despite what's happening in real life. And back then I didn't have anything like that. I just had to remake my YouTube account, and I didn't have any motivation to do anything. I wanted to get rid of absolutely all of my characters. I wanted to get rid of, like, all of my original stories and plans, and I did get rid of a few of those things, a few of my stories, a few of my characters, just because I didn't want to think of them as the past anymore. But I kept most of my anthros, and I think that was a good thing, because I couldn't imagine giving up some of those characters. And I even wanted to get rid of Pickle, but that also feels kind of wrong, because I've been Pickle for a while. These characters were kind of that. They were meant to be my new characters. I, within the Slime Notebook, only drew these guys for a few days. And when I didn't, I was drawing vents with Pickle. It was really weird and messy. Brine actually, if you notice, has the same mint green color as Pickle, as Brine was originally meant to literally be a version of Pickle. The personality has changed, the life has changed, the stories have changed, and they don't truly reflect real life anymore, though they kind of metaphorically do. But at one point, Brine was a representation of me. The other characters didn't represent anyone in specific, but they sort of represented the two different people that I was dealing with in real life, the two different types of people. Neither of them being all bad or all good, and I included their own stories, their own issues, to make me not hate them in the way that I hated the people in real life, who I, didn't know the stories of. Then it moves on to why I don't want to use these characters anymore. It could be partially obvious by the fact that this was a bad time, but what if I like these characters? I don't really like these characters. They aren't very well thought out, let's just say. Kind of like this video, but we're not talking about that. And their designs were kind of weird and didn't make sense, because what are they? What is the universe they lived in? And there were supposed to be a lot of other characters. I never got to animating them. I didn't want to do everything. I felt like I'd forgotten most of the stuff. And am I going to delete the videos? No, I'm not. I only did that to one of them, and that is the Cradles meme. I simply unlisted it so that people wouldn't find it anymore, because it was getting really popular still. And I didn't want people to find me through a video with these characters that I really don't ever plan or want to use, if that makes any sense. They were just sort of a coping mechanism that once I got into a better state of mind, I realized that I didn't need or want, because I couldn't use them anymore, because I didn't really have that sort of same motivation. After I stopped using them, you could have noticed I stopped uploading a lot, because I was still trying to find a new motivation. But for now, at least, I've found it. And it feels good to have that motivation. I won't have it forever, and it'll eventually stop. But for now, I'm pretty happy with what I have. So if you have any characters that you don't think you want anymore, think about it before you get rid of them, but also don't feel shy, because you can, and not even just characters, but if you have something that you think you want to keep because, I don't know why I'm doing a moral, but if you want to keep because of an obligation, don't, because if it's making you upset, if you feel like it's holding you back, then it is. It's kind of cheesy. Have a nice day, and don't abuse your friends like Pinkish does.